Welcome to the Heal and Transform podcast with your host, Andrew Ramsden. Andrew finds top experts to pick their brains about what coaches, therapists, and other complementary practitioners can do to level up and amplify the work so we can heal and transform the world together.
G'day everyone, and welcome to the show. Very happy to have Steve Plummer on the episode today. Steve is a copywriting extraordinaire. Have you ever had that blank page syndrome where you're not sure where to start, you're not sure how to write compelling or interesting content that brings your customers on the journey? Well, never fear, Steve is going to hook us up today. But he's also the master of multiple careers, including an illustrious career in journalism, interviewing some of the greats like Jeff Fennick. So I'm really looking forward to hearing his story and his journey, because I know there's going to be lots of useful lessons in there for how to transition our careers and grow our businesses. So stick around for that. G'day Steve, how are you today?
Hey Andrew, great. Thank you. And I've been known to break technology in the past, and true to form, this one hasn't gone well technically wise. So pleasure to be here finally, and hopefully the bugs are ironed out. But yeah, I've been very consistent, I think. So yeah, thank you very much, and hi everyone. Yeah.
We did have some challenges with the live feed, so we're recording this one offline, but looking forward to it anyway. Yep. So thank you for your persistence.
Yes.
So I did want to ask you about how you got to copywriting, because I know you started in the education sector and then went into journalism. So tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, it was it's been a journey, and all of us are on our own journey. And I think as we grow, as we mature, as we find out different things about ourselves. Our things change for us, and I was no different. I started teaching at Caloundra State High School. I spent a couple of years out in Western Queensland, and they were really different and rich experiences. Wasn't always fun, but they were rich life experiences and helped set up for where I am now. So I was in education for 19 or 20 years. I was a head of department for 10 years. I was a classroom teacher for 10 years, and I was a deputy principal in 2 different schools. So like you said, I did rise up through the ranks. The really interesting thing in that journey is that even though I reached a level of success, there was just something burning in me that I wanted to do something different. On a surface level, I can say, well, I needed to change because I'd been in a school of one form or another since I was 5 years old. So primary school, high school, university, working school. So that's a surface level thing, but it was just, I guess, something sort of deep in here. I wanted to do other things, and so one of the things I did, I learnt freelance journalism, and I ran my own freelance journalism business on the side while I was teaching. So I'd always been good at English, and love of words and things like that. And the problem with, or the challenge with the journalism thing was, even though I got relatively good at it, and as you mentioned, interviewing some of Australia's great fighters, I found my way into travel and sports writing, but it just didn't pay very well. And having a mortgage and 4 kids, it's pretty hard to jump from something that is very secure, superannuation, sick leave. When I left education, for instance, I had 100 and something sick days that I hadn't used, and those sorts of things are really those sorts of things that keep you stuck, I guess. You look at, oh, gee, if I leave, it's risky. Look at all the safety things that I've got, and so that was a real challenge, I must say. But just, you mentioned Jeff Fennick. This has stuck with me. I was doing an interview for him, with him rather, for a story. One of his fighters, by the name of Glenn Kelly, he was going to the US to take on Roy Jones Jr. And Roy Jones Jr., if anyone knows boxing, is probably in the top 10 pound for pound greatest fighters of all time. Just incredibly skilled. And in the interview, I said to Jeff, well, Jeff, the wisdom of the day, lots of people are saying that Glenn doesn't have a chance. And he said, listen here, opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got one. We've been training hard, and in typical Jeff Fennick direct speak, right? And that has really stuck with me, that quote. Because some people say, well, opinions are like armpits. Everyone's got two. And I guess as you're going, the reason I share that story is that as you're going through life and you're growing and you're doing different things, it's easy to listen to and get distracted by opinions. And I think it's important that we stay true to ourselves. And I was still, the interesting thing about that whole transition out of education was, on the surface, I was happy, successful. We still went out and did things. Kids were doing normal kids things. It was a normal family kind of life, but I guess in here is where I really felt it, and so I tried to use my writing skills to transition out of school via journalism, but that just wasn't going to pay the way. And then I went to an event just sort of on a whim almost, and the people there just really opened my eyes, because one of the guys in the room there said, look, I'm a copywriter. I work from home. I've got 4 kids and I earn 6 figures. And I just went, what? Wow. That was me. I had 4 kids. Gee, been in the hustle and bustle of a school, and then the piece of working from home, right? So there's tick, got 4 kids, like 6 figures. Hello. And so I guess it's probably a stalking thing now. I'd get into trouble for it now, but I mean, I pursued him until he became my mentor and helped me transition out of education into the copywriting and marketing world. And I've got a lot of people to thank for their help along the way. And I think if there's one really big thing it's probably 2 really big things from my story of transition is that to be true to yourself and what you want to do. Don't necessarily listen to the opinions, as well-meaning as they might be, from other people, but also find a mentor to help you, because it is tough to transition, on your own when you've got all of these competing things there about, stay safe, the mortgage, the kids, gee, you can't really, don't step out of your comfort zone, it's safer to stay where you are. All of that chatter that goes on in your head, which is that very much an ego, try and keep you safe kind of thing, and it doesn't really serve you. If it's against what you want to be true to yourself and what you want to do. So yeah, that's my story in a couple of minutes, I guess, in terms of that transition. The other thing is too, like, as someone who had been in middle management, I had a career path that was assured, and all the government superannuation and all those sorts of things, and a promotional path. If I was prepared to travel, I'd be a principal somewhere now, probably, but that wouldn't have made me happy. So it was about staying true to me. I probably, in truth, left it, I don't know, several years too long to do that. But eventually, I broke away. And I remember I was also speaking to another, Paul Blackburn. Some of you may have heard of him one time at an event. And I just caught him just before he went on stage. I said, Paul, what advice have you got? This is what I want to do. And he went, how much long service leave have you got? And I said, I couldn't remember how much it was. He said, take it at half pay for 6 months. That'll give you an opportunity to transition out. Oh, okay. So I went and did that like 3 weeks later, and I spent 6 months being paid in education on long service leave and 6 months earning money, as a copywriter. So that was my safety net to help me transition. So I didn't dive. I transitioned. I think it's important when you have responsibilities that you do have a transition rather than just jump and hope. For me anyway, jump and hope doesn't always work. Yeah.
That's fantastic advice for anyone that's looking to transition out, or anyone that's just sort of started that journey. Lots of fantastic tips and things we can take away from that. Thank you for sharing.
If anything, you take anything from the call today, be really true to who you are and what you want to achieve, because other people's opinions are always going to be there. And just remember, everyone's got one or two.
I love that. And how do you know, Steve, if it's an opinion that you should listen to, or if it's an opinion you should ignore, including that ego or that part of your brain that sits on your shoulder and tells you, there's fear there. Step away, stay safe.
Yeah. I wish I had the perfect answer for that, and I wish I had that all figured out. I still wrestle with that every day. In fact, with the big energy shifts in 2020, one of the things I've set myself to do every day is do one thing that makes me uncomfortable. And I think through that discomfort, there is then movement to quell that voice. That voice is always going to be there. No, just wait. You need a bit more preparation. Don't do that. You just stay safe. You're not quite ready. You'll always have that voice in your head. And I guess it's a case of catching yourself, and that quote that I read from Walt Whitman: "The present is no more uncertain than the future." So, what's the worst thing that can happen? This, just for example, this call doesn't go well today and people don't like it. Well, what's the worst that can happen? They'll be distracted by the next happy cat video that comes along. It's that we often scare ourselves about the future. And the acronym that fear is false expectations appear real is really true. So I think it's a go manual. Recognize when that fear thing comes up, and push through anyway. And I guess another little thing I'd like to share is that one of the things about being uncomfortable, I decided this year, well, my wife and I decided one of the things that's uncomfortable for me is taking up yoga. And so we've done 3 or 4 sessions so far. Oh, it's been unreal. There we are with a whole lot of, I guess, older folk, at the beach early in the morning doing yoga. But I mean, it's just been a real game changer in terms of how we feel about ourselves and our body and so forth. So yeah, I'm embracing more and more of that discomfort because I think there is growth and movement there. And it was, like I said, it wasn't easy when I left teaching because mortgage, young kids, but if you want to do it anyway, I guess commit to what you want rather than to the emotional or what you're feeling at the time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah, it's one of those things I've struggled with and juggled with, as well as those little fears in the back of your mind. And it's one of the things I love about working with this community of coaches, therapists, and healers, is they've really helped me get to the root of where those fears started in childhood as a way to keep me safe, and then just repeat it over time as an adult, where it's not as productive, it's not as resourceful, it's not as adaptive. And by clearing that stuff, I've found it much easier to not have as much of that fear coming up, but also to be able to sort of just work out when it is just fear being triggered from that place, or where it is there's a message there I need to pay attention to and listen to. So I really love that everybody's got their own way of kind of tackling that and dealing with that. And I love to hear that you're pushing yourself into the uncomfortable space every day. What was it yesterday? What did you get up to yesterday that was uncomfortable?
Okay, yeah, I went to a live half-day event around social media, and probably 6 months ago I wouldn't have done that. But that was, so every day I'm trying to do something that's uncomfortable. And tomorrow I've got some clients in Brisbane, so I'm going to work with them with their client presentation. In front of their clients. It's a big client in the city. So yeah, it's kind of exciting, a little bit more exciting. I think actually I'd probably like to share one other point with that, because I think it gets back to who you are in your story. And if I can just flash back to probably 6 or 7 or even 8 years ago, when I transitioned into marketing and copywriting, I actually closed the door, I think emotionally and physically, on my 20-year teaching career. And in hindsight, that was a massive mistake, because I kind of denied a part of me. That was me and my story. And I thought that, seeing as I was in marketing, the teaching stuff just wouldn't be valuable. And I think when you consider, you people listening, when you consider your story and all the things you've done in your life, it's a very similar thing. All of those things, those experiences that we've had, go to making up who we are. And so when I was speaking from stage in the marketing business environment, I sort of squashed that part of me. And if I flash forward to just recently, a month or so ago, one of my clients, I was just having a chat to them. They said, "Oh yeah, we're trying to run some training for our consultants to try and boost their conversions." And I said, "Yeah, I can come and help you with that." And they kind of went, "What?" I said, well, I was a teacher for 20 years, creating courses and doing stuff like that is kind of natural to me. I went, oh, can you do that? I said, we'll do it online. I said, no, I'll come down to Brisbane. We'll do a workshop for a couple of hours. And, at the end of that workshop, it was kind of easy for me, right? But the end of the workshop, they were just like, wow, that gives us so much clarity, because we set out the 5 trainings they want to have. We set out the multimedia things that they wanted to do, well, that they could do to, take in people's different learning styles, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I just went, oh, wow, thank you. It's given us so much clarity. And if I had have denied that part of the business of me, I wouldn't have been able to help that client as much, because consider it like this: if their clients, I don't know what their numbers are, if their consultants are closing, say, one of every 5 patients, one of every 5 presentations they go to, and by this training, if they can actually close 2 of every 5 just because they've got more skills and more confidence, that's going to change the business, and that's going to change the business probably more than any words I can give them. So I guess my message out of that is who you are and what you've done, and all of the things that you bring to the table are part of the package. And I love that. I think it was Simon Sinek who says people buy who you are before they buy what you do. And so, if I reflect on the last 10 years in particular, I did lock away a big part of me that was being able to teach and lead groups of people. And that was a mistake in hindsight.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really lovely that you were able to bring your breadth of experience and depth of experience from your past and your story and use that in your business to take your business to the next level. So I think that's a really good message for everyone as well, is to not close the door, as you say, on that entirely.
I think, can I just add one other thing there too?
Absolutely.
I think that when things come easily to us, and again, another story from maybe 18 months ago, a client asked me to quickly adjust something, and I just went and sent it back to them. 5 minutes later, I got a response in email saying, oh, that's genius. Thank you. That was wonderful. And I just did a few things with words, and again, going to the client and just doing my teaching stuff with them, it was kind of easy. And I think it's easy when things come easily to us. It's easy to think that everyone can do it, and therefore it's easy to dismiss your skills and your genius. Like I would have thrown the laptop out the window, whereas you were just calmly like, that's right. To me, that's genius, right? But it was effortless for you, and yet there's so. Again, have your right to the things that are really easy for you to do, and embrace that genius, because not everyone can do what you can do. And because it's easy for us, it becomes easy to dismiss that, oh shucks, it's nothing. Everyone can do it. And we really do ourselves a disservice. And the other thing too, you often teach most what you need to hear yourself. So I ain't perfect either. I'm a work in progress as well.
Oh, I love that. Good awareness. Yeah, me too. And I think it's really a fantastic message that we all need to remember is when we're out there writing content, whether it's social media, content marketing, or putting together packages for people, we have to remember they don't know what we know. It seems really simple and dumb for us, but we have to start at that right back down at that foundation and build them all the way up, don't we?
Totally. Absolutely. Yep.
And I mean, is there a method behind doing that when you're copywriting? How do you get a sense of where your audience is at and where they need to be? I know you've got a 4-step system. I don't know if that ties into this at all. This might give some clarity. I think it's I use the acronym WASM, and it's an overarching formula. Way of bringing clarity. W stands for the who, as in, who are the people that you are selling to? What language do they use? How do they identify themselves? That's got to be the starting point. Because people when they get up in the morning, they think about themselves and their problems, right? No one gets up in the morning and thinks about your business, right? We don't want to go to the appointment. We don't want to buy the thing. We don't want to do stuff that takes us out of our comfort zone generally, right? So people don't get up in the morning thinking about our businesses. We do, because we're involved in it, but other people don't. So you really do have to, the W, know the who. Who is it that you are speaking to? And every single market has
certain types of words or language patterns or groups of words that they resonate with. And I learned this from, actually, Bob, you know how your kids always teach you stuff. You know, I learned this when we did our first overseas trip to South Beach in Miami, Florida. We'd had a day at the beach. We were walking along the street there, had an ice cream, and we pulled up and just licked the ice cream in front of this big bay window of this this novelty t-shirt shop. And you know, we were just looking around. Some were funny, some were cool, but Isaac, who was, I think he was probably 8 at the time, he started laughing, and I'm just going, "What are you laughing at, mate?" And he's pointing down there. And so this 8-year-old boy's eyes had focused on a plain white t-shirt that had just 4 words down there. And those 4 words were, "Boobies make me happy." He thought that was hilarious, right? It was quite, I didn't think of it at the time, but afterwards I thought, isn't that like business? Because all of those t-shirts, right, are like the market out there, and there's so much noise and so many things that distract us, and yet his 8-year-old boys focused on one word on a plain white t-shirt that he found funny. And that to me was a really strong message about, you know, connecting to your people. What are the words that stands out for the people you sell to? You know, for example, if you're selling to investors, there's probably no point in using words like healing and energy and things like that. If you're selling a healing process, there's no point talking about investment and profit and things. So, you know, you need to understand your market deep enough so that you can use, you know, just remember, boobies make me happy. One word in there got the attention of an 8-year-old boy. You know, and our market is very much like that, right? So, yeah, you need to understand, and that comes from listening to customers, you know, in Facebook groups, online forums, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Wherever you can, find out what language the market is using. I also really love the term that if you can describe someone's problem or pain better than they can themselves, they automatically think you have a solution. You know, so it's worth really delving into the market that you have. So that's the W. The second thing is A. A stands for agony or pain or their problem. What is their problem? So WA, you know, and as I said, you've got to be able to explain their problem and explain the problem in words and the language that they use, right? That bonds you. You're their person when you can use the language they use to describe their own problems. That's a really big one. S stands for solution. So what solution do they seek? What do you promise them? You know, what's nirvana for them? You know, so you've got to, again, know that's about them. It's not about you, it's about them. So what solution do they seek? And the last one, M, so WASM, M is the mechanism or how you solve the problem. And of course, you've also got to have lots of proof about that it actually works. You know, I know in some industries, you know, financial planning, for instance, a lot of the health industries, it's difficult to use testimonials of, you know, I was X and Y, or, you know, this happened, then this happened. You've got to be careful with that. I understand that. But as much proof as you can build in to that argument, the WASM, and, you know, even if after the call today, you just sit down with a blank piece of paper for 10 minutes and just write your own notes and thoughts, that will bring some clarity to your business and to your messaging.
I love that model. That's fantastic. And I think there's particular insight when you talk about finding their language, the keywords that light them up and relate to them, and also talking about that agony and pain, but talking about the solution, but it's got to be about them. The solution has to be what they're looking for. And I think this is often the challenge that we face is we know what we provide and we know the value that can have for people. So we know what people actually need, but they may not realize they need it. They just know what they want. So a good way to describe that would be they come in saying, I want, you know, a better job, or I want a new relationship. I want to be in a relationship, a loving relationship. And they might think that they want a step-by-step training methodology, or how do I fix my CV, or how do I prepare for job interviews if it's the I want a new job thing that they desire. But we know that what they actually need is much deeper. There's something going on in the body, or there's something there emotionally that they need to clear from their childhood before they're actually going to show up with the right presence in that interview. So I think, we kind of got to sell people what they want and give them what they want, but also then give them what they need and take them on that journey. So I think that's really insightful to start with the solution that's all about them and what they want.
I think it's important too to sell the result, not the thing that really gives you the result. So for example, if I have a sore leg, I want the leg to stop being sore, right? I don't really care whether it's a Panadol or a pressure point technique. If you can say, look, just hit this pressure point for 5 seconds, and your pain's gone away, I'm in. Take this Panadol, the pain's gone away. I'm sold. I just want the result. So a lot of your marketing effort must be about the result that your solutions give them.
And where in the WASM are you injecting the result? Is that in the solution space, or is that more in the mechanism and the proof of the mechanism?
Yeah, it's definitely the solution, and then the mechanism expands on that. Because there's two parts to that. There's the emotional side of the brain, right? And people buy based on emotion. Okay, that's the first part of it. So we need to emotionally connect with them and connect with the result they want. But then the logical side of the brain kicks in, and we do want to know, well, yeah, okay, I do this or this, this, and this. And actually, that's I'm glad you brought that up. That's a really interesting point. This is really important when you're selling something. People don't like walking into a dark room, so a lot of your marketing must be about turning the light on for them. So what actually happens? So appointment 1, you do this. Then you get this, and then this. And so what are the things that actually happen? Because this is, again, part of that is a confused buyer will do nothing. Confused people do nothing. So make sure you do turn the light on for them, because if the room is dark for them, and a room's a figurative thing, but if the room is dark for them, they won't walk into it. So confused people do nothing. And you think about that, the last time you went to buy something and you were going, I don't know, you did nothing, right? So as much as possible, if we can turn the light on for them and take away that confusion, that usually bumps conversions.
So that sounded like you were describing the mechanism. Here's what's going to happen. Here's what you actually need and how that's going to play out.
Yes. Yep. Yeah,
So
and that's the logical
mechanism.
side of the brain. Yeah, that's the logical side of the brain. And I will need to know that. You're not going to make me stretch my ankle behind my ear. That's going to hurt me, kind of thing. I don't want a piece of that. So you've got to tell them what's going to happen. So it's easy for them, it's safe for them, and that confusion is gone.
So solution is really results. This is the outcome. This is the prize at the end of the rainbow. And then the mechanism is telling them what's going to be involved and what that actually looks like. And that could be very different to anything that they've ever experienced before. So you've got to bring them on that journey, right? From where it is and what they think they want through to, hey, this is actually going to do it for you.
Yeah, another word of caution there too is a lot of that is easily dismissed with, oh, everyone knows that. Everyone knows that's what happens. Well, no, they don't.
No.
If I'm going to an energy healer for the first time, for instance, do I have to take all my clothes off? Will this take 4 hours? Will it take 1 hour? Will I feel all hot and flushed? Will I, I don't know. Because you're in that space all the time and you talk to people in that space all the time, what actually happens to me? And if I don't know, if that room is dark, I'm really reluctant to step into it, right? Whereas if you say, no, look, all you actually have to do is lay there. I'll work on you for about 45 minutes. You might feel, a little bit of tingly, maybe a few hot sensations, but, generally you'll be able to get up and walk away and go on with your day. It's a really easy, simple, safe healing process. Whereas my mind, like the fear of leaving a career, my mind is going, well, this might be scary, this might be hard. Oh, gee, I don't want to do any of that sort of stuff. Well, what if I have to do this? What if I have to do that? So-and-so said they had it and it didn't work and this happened to them. And so all of a sudden, all of those things go, our mind, the ego state of our mind is, don't, keep safe. So within our marketing, we are fighting that ego part of the brain that wants to keep us safe, and keeping us safe in this instance is not spending money, not going to the appointment. It's easier often, and we've all done this. It's easier to stay with the pain that rather than go to a solution that you don't know. Hey, my 20-year career is a little bit like that. So, and the pain we know is often easier than the solution we actually want. So yeah, whatever you can do, turn the light on for people.
I love that. So it's about safety. You're saying confused people do nothing, but also scared people do nothing. So, yeah.
All right, they make a decision real quick, right?
Yeah, that's true. So how do we provide that safety? Is it just about the information so there's clarity, or are there other things we can be doing to give them that safety that it's okay?
Yeah, so remember I said a little while ago, people buy who you are before they buy what you do. So how you show up, and that again gets back to embracing that whole story of you. And I'll go back to my story. I didn't realize, when I said I was a head of faculty, deputy principal, I thought because it was in a different industry, that was just something left behind. That actually gave me a lot of credibility. Because I dealt with budgets, I could lead and manage large groups of people, I could organize things, I could get results, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I ignored that. I pushed that away. And as I said, in hindsight, on my journey, that was a mistake. So part of that is who you are, how you show up, but it's also then how you can unpack what you do so it's easy and in the language that they use, so it's safe and easy for them to say yes. And it's, I guess, Andrew, there's no one thing, I love the saying, no one thing brings down an aeroplane. The reverse is also true. No one thing makes it fly. So yes, it's testimonials, it's proof, it's turning the light on for them, it's talking to them in their language, it's having it really clear in your mind about who you're reaching and what they want, et cetera, et cetera. So all of those things, as you can see, it's multi-layered in terms of how you get out there and reach people. It's one of I think the biggest mistakes people make is they underestimate the difficulty of the task of selling. I'll just put a web page up, I'll just do a post. Oh, that didn't work. What the hell? I listened to this guy on this Facebook Live, and that stuff didn't work. What? No, that stuff doesn't work. I won't do that.
It's not easy, is it?
No.
Is there a secret to that, to getting it to actually convert into sales? I mean, your typical website doesn't really do a lot. Your typical content marketing posts, it's good to get your energy out there and be seen and be visible so that people can get to know you, and you are your brand, obviously. But what's the secret to then having that convert into business?
Secret to having it convert? Wow. Again, that's a multi-layered question. One thing I would say is that be okay with failure. It's really hard, I think. Well, it's even harder these days because you see on social media in particular, you see people at the beach, out to dinner, all of these kind of envy things. And well, they must have got there because their business is really great and their marketing works. And so again, your mind tells you this story, but what they don't tell you is all of the failures that they had. A couple of examples. One of the biggest online guys, I'm on one of his email lists, and he sent a picture of his website from 2015, and he said, "This made me cringe." So what did we do? We fixed it. Then we fixed the fixes. Then we fixed the fixes that fixed the fixes, and now we're fixing it some more. So everything is test and measure. Know that you're going to have your failures. The other thing, I was reading someone's blog late last year, and they said they love the story of the big company that hired one of the best copywriters in the world for 8 big campaigns, and every one of them bombed. This is marketing. It's dealing with people's emotions, and understand too that marketing is very situational. What worked at one point suddenly may not work the next day, and there's often no reason behind it. So, I know that probably doesn't bring a lot of comfort, but that's the reality. You have to test and measure. Some of the stuff you do will work really well, and then you think you've got it nailed, and then you do something again, like, I'll just do what I did then, and it doesn't work. And you go, well, what the hell happened? You'll go back and learn from what the differences were. Now, I actually learned that really early on in my career, my writing career. The very first paid job I did, it went really well, and the client asked me to do it again, and I thought, I've got this nailed, right? And I didn't put as much effort in, I didn't research as hard, and it was terrible. And that failure was an awful punch in the guts, but geez, I learned from it. If you aren't present and you don't put the energy, and by energy, I guess I'm meaning, the energy of wanting to help people, the energy of the intent behind the words, which can't be needy or desperate, by the way, but the energy behind the words, if you try and skim over that kind of stuff, it bites you on the bum pretty much.
Yeah, look, I'd love to hear more about that. We were talking about this before the interview, this idea of the energy that you sit in when you're writing the content really comes through, and that's such an important part of the process. Tell us some more about that. How do you think about that, and how do you make sure you're in the right energy when you're writing?
Again, I wish I had this nailed 100% of the time. Look, it's if you are anxious, if you are fearful, if you are needy, if I just got to get this client today, God, things are going to be really bad if I don't get this client. If you are all of those, and if you, Dr. Hawkins in his book Power versus Force actually outlines the frequency of the different, or the vibration of the different emotions that we have, and obviously the negative ones like fear, envy, etc., really resonate really low, and the other ones like joy and love, etc., resonate really high. And if you are in that space yourself of guess of having some really low vibrations when you go to write, that comes through. People are very perceptive in terms of energy. We don't realize it, but people are very perceptive. And one of my mentors, Dan Kennedy, has this great phrase about poor writing. And it goes something like this. He says, people, when they read copy or words that make them feel vaguely, unconsciously uncomfortable, will turn away immediately. And vaguely, unconsciously uncomfortable. We don't know why. And you think about all the web pages you've read, all the posts you've seen. If something made you vaguely, unconsciously uncomfortable, you turn away pretty quickly. And so part of our job is in that writing state that we're in is to make sure our level of our vibe, if you like, our frequency is as high as we possibly can. And there are a number of things you can do to do that. The music you listen to, for instance, when you're writing, Mozart Piano Concerto 21, that puts your brain in an alpha brain state. That can help to get you in the flow and just have it playing in the background. Google high frequency music, that can help you as well. One of the big marketers from the US, Perry Marshall, he said before he writes copy, he plays a really loud heavy metal music because it gets him pumped and excited. And I couldn't think of anything worse. So work out, well, that'll make me angry, right? And I don't want to be writing when I'm angry. So work out what works for you. It's important to work out what works for you, because other people have said, oh, look, I tried that Mozart stuff and I just got annoyed by it. And that's okay. Different people respond to different things. So try different things, test and measure and see what works for you. But being in that really nice state when you go to write is really, really important. Sometimes that's really challenging though if you've got a tight deadline. And like I said, I wish I had that mastered better, but I'm a work in progress like everyone else. So,
yeah, no worries at all. Well, that's really fantastic advice. And again, this is one of the areas that coaches, therapists, and healers are really good at. So I'm sure they'd be able to reciprocate as well. Maybe it's a question I can hit someone up with on a future podcast.
Yeah.
And we'll get their side of how you get in that right vibrational and energy state as well. So that's fantastic.
It's a great question, isn't it? And that's actually a really good question, Andrew, because that's not just a writing question, right? That's an every time you are doing something that is of importance to yourself and to others. So yeah, that's a really good idea.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. They're very important life skills, especially in business. So we're getting close to time for today, but I know there's a few special offers that you've made available to our listeners, which is really fantastic. And a couple of things coming up that I'd love to talk about. I know you've got a book launch coming up and some workshops, and there's also an online writing program. Yeah. Tell us all about it.
Okay, so really quickly, I'm very excited. My book is about to be launched. You can see I'm just flicking through. This is a print, a copy. I'm just doing the last edits. It won't be that big. As my son said, oh, it looks like a school textbook. Son, it won't be that big. It'll be a normal book size, right? That's just a proof from the printer. So keep an eye out for that when that launches, when I get it done, which hopefully will be in the next couple of weeks. And I guess that's a lifelong ambition for me as well. I've always wanted to be an author. And that's becoming really close. So, really, really excited by that. Keep an eye out for that one. Yeah.
Will there be a physical book launch that we can come along to?
There will be.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for the details.
Okay.
It will be on the
We'll send
Sunshine
the
Coast
details
here
out.
somewhere. So I'd love to see you there. If that's great. I'm happy to sign
Yeah.
books, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, can't wait.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I know you've got some workshops coming up. Did you want to talk about those?
I haven't got any dates for those at the moment,
Okay.
so we'll
All
park
right.
those for now, if that's all right. Yep.
Yeah, too easy. And I know you've got the 7 golden rules as well. That's a gift that people can access. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. So it's a one-page checklist. It's the 7 golden rules that create $1 million marketing campaigns, and I guess it's a collection of what I've learned over the last 10 or 12 years. Understand it's not a magic pill. Okay, it's a checklist to help get you in when you're doing a marketing campaign or a series of emails or whatever it might be, to have a look at some things, the big rocks, the fundamentals that make it work. And just a glance at that every morning for the next 21 days will also change your mind. So you can get that at my website. That's www.symmetrymarketing.com.au. That's SYMMETRY marketing, Symmetry Marketing. That's my website.
Great.
Are you going to put that anywhere, Andrew? Or
yeah, we'll put the link up, and I'm going to go and download it now and print it out. I love that it's a one-pager because I can stick it on my wall.
Yeah, you can. That's page 2, I think, after the copyright stuff. Yeah, so yeah,
fantastic.
You'll be able to do that.
You.
Yes.
And I know you've also got an online copywriting training, and you've done a fantastic deal for us.
Yeah. So do you want me to tell you about that one?
Yeah, please.
So, if you want some free information, obviously the checklist is there. If you want to go a little bit deeper and invest in yourself a bit more, I do have an online course. So it's work from home at your own pace in your own time. It covers 3 big areas: the art of storytelling. I touched on that a little bit today in telling my story and then telling the story of when we were in Miami. So strategic stories are really important. And just as a quick aside, they're a really good mechanism to use as proof of what you do. Your particular issues sound a lot like John, who was in here last week. He had and we actually fixed. We're able to fix him really quickly. So if you can tell strategic stories and know why you're telling them, that can help you with your conversion. So that's the first thing. The second thing that it covers is how to grab people's attention. In your headline. If you don't get them at hello, you don't get them. All right, so they don't get to see the message. So there is a real art to writing your headlines, and that gives you some really cool information about how to do that. And the third thing is how to wordsmith your way to profit. In other words, there are certain things and certain techniques that when you are writing, you need to be really aware of. I'll just give you one tip, for example. When you're writing, write. When you're editing, edit. Writing is a creative right side of the brain activity. Editing is an analytical left side of the brain activity. Don't confuse the two. Those people who are perfectionists and really anal and hate seeing the little squiggles on your Word doc, they hate that advice, but it's really good. Just write for flow, get it all out, and then go back and edit. So there are lots of tips in there. In those the 7 technical writing tips that I give you in that course as well. Plus there are 4 other bonuses: a copywriting critique checklist to go back and have a look at all the things that you may have missed. There's a writing preparation guide, which is really important, the questions that you need to answer for your market. And then there are some cheat sheets as well, things on headlines, how to close, how to build an offer, etc., etc. So it's jam-packed with value. It does retail at $297 USD. However, for your people, Andrew, coupon code this morning, it takes it down to 97 USD. And the coupon code, make sure you use the coupon code, is surprise, surprise, Andrew Ramsden. Okay, so all lowercase, ANDREW, RAMSDEN. So Andrew Ramsden is the coupon code, all lowercase. So make sure you put that in, otherwise it will obviously charge you the full amount, which we don't want. So yeah, gift from me to you. Andrew Ramsden is the coupon code.
I love that. Thank you, Steve. And what a wonderful interview this morning. This has been fantastic. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for being so generous.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to share some stuff, and hopefully my story as well as some tips has helped you in some way out there, to anyone who's listening. So remember, we are all on that journey. I wish I had it figured out. Actually, one other thing I'd love to leave you with is I love the saying, the gurus are always right, except when they're wrong.
So just trust in yourself as much as you trust in the information that you get out there. If you trust in yourself and apply the information you get out there, I think that stands you in good stead moving forward, and especially overcoming those fears that we all have in our life.
Amazing. Great advice to finish on. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Andrew. Been a pleasure.
Talk to you again soon. So there we have it, Steve Plummer. And wasn't he incredibly generous, diving right down into the tactical and the practical that we can apply? I know there's a lot there that I'm really looking forward to applying in my copywriting. So we'll put some links to Steve's website's Symmetry Marketing in the description for the video and in the show notes. And otherwise, just let me know what you think. Drop us a comment. And if you've got any questions for Steve, do the same. Reach out and we can work through those. Otherwise, I look forward to the next one. Take care. May all your copywriting have wonderful energy and vibration, and really connect with your audience and convert into ways that you can help serve them. And until next time, have fun, guys. See ya. Bye.
That was the Heal and Transform podcast with Andrew Ramsden. If you enjoyed the episode or found it valuable, ask yourself, who else do you know who would benefit from it? Pass it on or send them to healandtransform.org/podcast. And until next time, remember, to make a bigger positive impact, we need to leverage ourselves, tap into the right technology, and collaborate, because we can only heal and transform the world together.